Everything you're talking about, I think, is really interesting, but visually, this needs to hook me at the start, and it's not there yet.
Rogue Games put the call out to find their next big game, and indie developers around the world answered. There are 5 different categories and 5 chances to win. But before they can get the glory, they'll have to impress Rogue's hand-picked industry heavyweights, aka our judges.
While everything is amazing looking that you have in-game, there is a worry about a lack of variety.
Who will take their idea to the next level and go rogue? It's anyone's game.
I love your passion. Keep that passion up.
Today's category is Huge Potential, a title any developer would love to have bestowed upon their game. And of course, the $50,000 grand prize for winning the whole thing wouldn't hurt either.
After much deliberation, our judges are excited to announce...
This is Rogue Jam. Welcome to Rogue Jam. Rogue Games is dedicated to putting great indie titles in the hands of players, and now they're on the lookout to discover their next big game, and you've got a front row seat. With a huge cash prize and a Rogue publishing deal, there's a lot on the line. So we called on the help of some industry experts to decide who's going rogue and who's going home. Per Schneider is Executive Vice President, Chief Content Officer, and co-founder of IGN Entertainment. Reggie Fils-Aimé was the face of Nintendo for over a decade, launching some of the company's best-selling consoles and handhelds. Matt Gaspassina is the co-founder of IGN Entertainment and built Apple's App Store games editorial team. He's also the founder and CEO of Rogue. Kimberly Pointer-Corbett is the Senior Vice President of Digital Publishing at Warner Brothers Games, where she supports the bloody good times in games like Mortal Kombat 11 and Game of Thrones Conquest. Christopher Lee is the co-founder of Enmass and has worked on games like Halo, Age of Empires, and Need for Speed. He now oversees Netflix's licensing and transmedia. And finally, Chris Archer is the Chief Strategy Officer of Rogue, and his teams have made billions of dollars, getting more than 100 games into the hands of gamers. The category is Huge Potential. What exactly are we looking for here? Reggie, let's start with you.
This has got to be something that draws me in, that I want to keep coming back to again and again and again. Is this going to be a business opportunity that makes sense for the developer and for the publisher?
From a games media perspective, I also want to see something that, YouTubers, games journalists, streamers can recognize as something that they want to play on camera and get feedback from others, because that's how games truly blow up nowadays.
From a production point of view, I need something that I can build into something bigger, right? Because a lot of these are small projects, and I want to be able to build something that can last the test of time.
All right, well, let's get things started. Here are the Rogue Jam submissions that have huge potential, brought to you by AWS Game Tech. Let the games begin.
I decided to become a game creator because I spent most of my life playing video games, and they've brought me years of fun and enjoyment. They've inspired me to become the person that I am today. AURASCOPE fits into the traditional genre of platformers, with some elements from action-adventure, puzzle, and RPG games thrown into the mix to create an experience like no other.
Enter the Chronosphere has the DNA of a traditional roguelike, it has the tactical decision-making of a game like XCOM, and it has the frenetic combat of a bullet hell shooter.
I became a game developer because of my cousin, and he wanted to become a game developer too. So I thought, I'm gonna make a better game than him. And I worked on it for 3 months while I was doing my physics degree, and I found my calling.
I'm almost 40 years old. I don't have any formal education in computer science or design. I really want my participation in this contest to show people that a lifelong love of gaming and creation can amount to something fulfilling at 40 years old and beyond.
I've been playing games since I was a kid, just like most people in the mid-90s. I always imagined if I could make my own game, what would it be? The theme that I'm going for, making it like a hip-hop action game.
The main reason I want to create games is to give other people a very specific feeling or experience. In the case of Rogue North, it's the feeling of being in your constant danger, but also having the skills to overcome it.
My background in games is not that much. I don't have a degree or something like that, and I'm never working on a big company.
Throughout my life, I've always loved playing video games, especially on the couch with my friends. This prize money would massively help me make Hockey Heroes into not only a successful game, but create a foundation for our studio going forward.
I want to create games because video games can influence gamers. I think my game should be selected because it'll be the first stepping stone of my game development career.
I want to bring that same sense of fun and enjoyment to other people, and to as many people as possible, and hopefully inspire the next generation of gamers and game developers.
I felt like ever since I was a kid, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to make video games. I wanted to create something.
I want to create games to contribute something valid to this medium that I love so much.
Well, our judges have had time to play all these games and have individually cast their votes for which they like best. We've selected 3 finalists we'll be taking a closer look at, but before we reveal those, we're spotlighting one game that didn't make it to the next round but was still a Rogue standout, brought to you by Galaxy Racer. Matt, why don't you tell us about a game that didn't quite float to the top but still deserves some attention today?
Yeah, it was actually quite hard because there were quite a few that we liked, but one that stood out because it was so different is Kokoro no Pro. And this is a wrestling dating sim where you're basically running through high school. It's got this anime style to it. The only reason we didn't advance it to the next round is because it was more conceptual than it was actually done in execution. And so you did have the beginnings of a cool anime sort of love story set in a high school, but there was no wrestling component at all yet. So I think this is something we'd probably take a look at farther down the line.
With that said, let's take a closer look at the first official selection for the huge potential category, Rogue North. Putting Rogue in the name of the game got them this far, but can such blatant sucking up take them all the way? We're about to find out. Here's a preview. Load up and get your clicking fingers ready.
Most people know me on the internet as Mac, and I am one of the main developers for Rogue North. My background in games is pretty limited. About 3 years of watching game dev tutorials on YouTube and messing around with my own projects in GameMaker. The name of my game is Rogue North. As far as gameplay goes, it's a twin-stick shooter with slower-paced tactical gunplay and some light survival elements. The player will fight through the Canadian wilderness, battling many types of dynamically reactive enemies. Managing body warmth, overall health, and ammunition is key to survival. The goal is to reach camps full of survivors along the way, to buy and sell clothing, weapons, ammunition, health packs, anything you really need to reach the coast. Juggling game dev in real life is not really easy, and I don't really do it, being completely honest. I've definitely considered quitting a few times. That's something I don't think any developer is immune to. If I could go back in time and tell my 15-year-old self who started on Rogue North that I would be in the Rogue Jam competing for this massive publishing deal, he would not believe me, but he would be pretty damn excited.
Now, joining us remotely from the Great White Rogue North of Canada, Mackenzie Palmer of Mac and Gribblesnap.
Hello.
Hey there.
How you doing?
All right, well, judges, now is the time to ask your burning questions. Fire away. What you need to know about Rogue North. Chris, let's start with you.
Do you plan on having any form of dynamic weather, and how might those stats actually impact the players that are working their way through your game?
There is a dynamic weather system, and it can scale up to the point of a terrible blizzard. Your warmth meter just drops really fast, and so your clothing will help slow that down. But even then, the cold will force you to find some source of heat.
I really like the gunplay. It feels really good. Game's tough already. Do you have any sort of kind of passive gadgets or weaponry, like setting up trip mines, that sort of stuff that kind of mixes up the attack runs a bit?
Right now, the main focus is trying to make the weapons each have their own place, be able to force the player into a fun state of play is something I'm thinking of, definitely.
Say you get more investment, where would you take this game? Would you consider other landscapes? How would you make it more broadly appealing?
There's a lot of art that needs to be made. I want to make things like oil rigs in the middle of an Arctic tundra, seaside villages and small towns, things like that.
Yeah, if I can jump in, one of the things that we noticed is, while everything is amazing looking that you have in game, there is a worry about a lack of variety, especially being set in the snow where everything just starts to look like snowy filled landscapes. So if you could speak a bit more to that, how you plan to have even more variety.
Yesterday or a day ago, I started work on some grass, which was kind of strange because it added a lot to the game. So that's gotten me thinking a lot more about how the general look of the game will progress.
Mac, I'm going to give you a complete curveball.
Presented by the NPD Group, the official product partner of Rogue Jam.
Mac, I'm going to give you a complete curveball. It is a brutally hard game, right? You're going in an area, you're getting attacked by these hordes of combatants. You know, I want more areas where I can snipe, where I can be stealth, or I could play the game differently and still progress and get to the objective. But I would like to see an option that's not brute force.
Absolutely, and that is something that I was a bit worried about when making the demo, because I made all those maps in about 3 weeks.
Wow.
I love your passion. Keep that passion up, right? Because that's what we see in this vertical slice. I actually differ a little bit from Reggie. I liked that it was so tough. I say, stick to your guns, make it tough, keep it tough. I think that there's an appeal there. I love all the different ideas around that.
If I could offer you an additional note, I would say don't be shy in the narrative aspect of it. Really help the player understand what's the motivation, what are the elements that they're going to be battling against, and I think lean into that because that will help separate your game from others.
All right, well, thank you, Mac. Now we're going to banish you to the frozen wastes of our virtual green room for just a moment so we can confer with our judges.
I think they went really well. I was honestly quite surprised with how positive all the feedback was. I was expecting some harsh criticisms because, of course, I know and I'm well aware of the faults of the game. So I was kind of internally expecting the judges to know them all, I guess.
Well, what did we think, judges?
When you're looking back at 16-bit games, they were obviously constrained by, graphics power, but also memory, and nothing ever had permanence. Whereas in this game, you see the gun shells fall on the ground, you see the blood stains and the trails that people leave.
I'm not a particularly violent person, but how gratifying was it to see somebody that you wounded later on die and not have to worry about them?
Yeah, and the juxtaposition with the 2D style, it totally works for me. Feels right on brand for Rogue as well.
There's a fork in the road between creating something that is going to be incredibly hard versus something that opens the aperture just a little bit, but it's a bit of a trade-off. The one piece that he absolutely has to do is he has to make that decision and stick with it, all the way down the path. Pick a path and execute against it.
We just got to look at our first of 3 finalists, and now the second one is ready for a brawl. It's Hockey Heroes. Let's check it out.
When I'm not working on Hockey Heroes, it's pretty much hockey all the time either way. I'm either watching hockey outside on the rink, clearing it off, getting ready for a weekend tournament with friends, anything hockey all the time pretty much. The name of my game is Hockey Heroes. It's an arcade hockey role-playing party game in development for PC and console. Hockey Heroes combines 2 traditional genres to make a unique package. It combines the over-the-top arcade sports action with traditional RPG mechanics to create a new, narrative-driven arcade sports experience. Hockey Heroes' unique story mode puts a twist on the sports gaming genre by using narrative, equipment unlocks, and character progression to connect players with their team. Not only is the on-ice action fast-paced and colorful, but you can use pickups to turn other players into a pigeon or your goalie into a brick wall. The on-ice action is heightened by the overarching story that gives narrative between games. Not only will skaters be flying up and down the ice, smashing home one-timers, but once players unlock new equipment and stat upgrades, you can start customizing your team the way you want to play. A bunch of years ago, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I found that while it was difficult at the time, and it's still difficult, it really helped me prioritize what was important to me. Honestly, I still can't believe that I'm even talking to you guys or to IGN or to kind of anybody about this stuff. I'm really I want this game to exist, so I just spend my time making it exist. To now have opportunities at publishing deals and financing and just help to make this game a reality is just a really surreal experience, and I'm so appreciative of every little bit of it.
After seeing a lack of innovation in the world of sports games, Chris Atella decided to change that with Hockey Heroes. Even if you're not a hockey fan, this isn't so much a hockey game as an adventure game where you save the world by playing hockey. Chris is taking a break from his job managing an ice rink to talk to us all the way from Toronto, Canada. Hey Chris, and welcome.
Hello.
Okay, judges, you have your questions. Chris has the answers. Archer, let's start with you.
One of the things that was really interesting to me was the narrative and how that differentiates it from other hockey games, even with or without the NHL license on top of it. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because we weren't actually able to experience that, even though you had talked about it in your presentation.
Yeah, so far the what's available in the game has mostly been a focus on the core gameplay experience and me just focusing on making sure that it's a fun game to play and that it's not full of bugs and all that kind of stuff. And the next level is to start integrating a lot more of the story elements. The conversation and the dialogue is all supposed to really push you towards this feeling of progression and going from a nobody just playing hockey out on the rink with their friends to hopefully saving the world.
I love this game. I thought it was super fun. Although, am I the only one that got smoked in the rookie mode? I thought it was kind of hard.
No, everyone did. Everyone does. Everyone does. Don't worry.
My question for you is if you thought about mobile.
Yeah, definitely. It's been designed from the beginning to be able to go on pretty much any console that I can get it on, in combination with it being sort of a pick up and play and super accessible game because you could pretty much play it with just the 3 buttons. It's also designed to eventually get onto mobile as well.
My question is around 2 questions, actually. I'm just going to throw a second one at you. 1, tell me about the visuals right now and where you plan to take them with funding. And then 2, can you speak to what you're thinking in terms of multiplayer online?
So the idea now that I've got an artist lined up is to basically do an overhaul of the art. My whole goal was to get that core gameplay experience working, and then now to hopefully get some more funding that I could put towards the art to really overhaul the look. For the online multiplayer, just given the size of our team and the scope of the project and all that, mostly leaning towards just sort of like a virtual co-op sort of idea. So you can add your friends into the game and you could play with them and you can run through the story mode together. You could create your own little tournament if you wanted to.
You really need to push on the art style. You know, everything you're talking about I think is really interesting, but visually this needs to hook me at the start, and it's not there yet. Everything you're talking about I think is really interesting, but visually this needs to hook me at the start, and it's not there yet. And so investing there I think is going to be super critical. As you do that and you add other elements, it's going to continue to push it over the top.
I've just made the art look kind of passable for now. Like, I've done everything I could. I'm not an artist, I'm not a modeler, I'm not an animator, I'm not any of that kind of stuff. So I can't wait to go to this next step with the artist that we have. He's fantastic and he's going to do great work.
When you think about the sport, you've got to have sort of the integrity of how hockey works, and you're applying this, you know, NBA Street, NFL Blitz type of, you know, exaggerated fashion. I just wanted to kind of probe you a little bit on how do you strike that balance of keeping it hockey but adding those elements that make it unique in your game?
The idea is that as you upgrade your equipment, upgrade your stick, upgrade your gloves, you gain more special abilities and special powers, but really they're all just building on top of the core hockey gameplay. So it's really just a slap shot, but it looks really cool and it gives a very cool effect. And then the equipment also gives you all these different stat boots and stuff like that, so you can really customize the game how you want.
From a gameplay perspective, I think it feels really good. The skating feels really good. I don't think the scoring yet feels like the event that it should be. If you can play with the camera and really get in there and make the player feel that they scored, or if they got tackled, like to kind of slow it down, go, wah, right? Like really point at those moments and put that in your trailers. I think people are gonna start trying it and they'll love it.
All right, Chris, it was nice to meet you. Now we've got to confer with our judges for a minute, so stick around and we'll see you again at the end for the big reveal.
I think my chances of winning this competition are 1 in 3, but I think I have a pretty good chance. I think there's a really good desire for an arcade-style hockey game, and I hope I have a good opportunity.
All right, judges, what did we think? Archer?
Frankly, I just got caught up too much looking at it and wondering what it could be instead of what it was. And so while the moment to moment was great and I was really having a lot of fun, really the lack of polish on the visuals or direction, really I had a tough time with.
I actually got a little bit more confidence hearing from him because he did know that the art wasn't great, right? And he was very aware of that, and he says that he has an artist. So I actually felt a lot better about that. But yeah, it's about if the true nature of this game is that it's a hockey RPG, I wanted to see it demonstrated somewhere in between, in the demo, in the material.
Rogue is in the business of bringing more arcade-feeling sports games to market, so it would make sense for our portfolio. But I'm such a visual stickler, and right now the visuals are just not where they need to be, and I can't get past that, so I'm having some issues with that for sure.
Okay, that's 2 of our 3 finalists down and just 1 to go. Here's your final finalist. Enter the Chronosphere.
I'm Reese from Effort Star Games, and I'm here with Enter the Chronosphere.
I've been playing video games since I was 8 years old. It wasn't until I discovered Click and Play, this very basic game engine, that I was able to make my own games. Enter the Chronosphere has the DNA of a traditional roguelike. It has the tactical decision making of a game like XCOM, and it has the frenetic combat of a bullet hell shooter. Every turn in Enter the Chronosphere is a short slice of real-time action. So if you dodge, fire, reload, pull a lever, or draw a sword, your enemies will move at the same time as you. Unlike other dungeon crawlers, each turn plays out in real time. So instead of having an accuracy skill, you actually need to account for bullet spread. And instead of rolling to dodge, you need to move yourself out of the way of enemy attacks. Each run of the game takes you to a completely different environment with its own set of challenges. Along the way, you'll encounter new enemies with unique behaviors, and you'll have to learn how they work to come up with strategies to defeat them.
Before I was a game developer, I worked at a couple of nightclubs, and it was a really, really bad job. I would work till like 7 or 8 in the morning. Now that when I work, I'm working on my own things, and it's actually productive, and I actually have a creative outlet. Like, I never forget how bad it was before and how lucky I am to be doing what I'm doing. I always try and really think about that and remember, like, yeah, I've made it to here. This is great. Everything's going really well for me, and work hard to make it happen.
Our judges have had hands-on time with Enter the Chronosphere, but they still have some questions for the developers behind it. Joining us remotely from Melbourne, Australia, please welcome Reese Vanderwarden.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, well, judges, you may now enter the question sphere.
Have you thought about the sort of characters that will appear in the game? Like, I thought the chess pieces were so fitting for how the game plays. Will one stage be like chess pieces that you're fighting against? Or how are you thinking about the look of it?
Some ideas we have, like right now we're working on a Western level, which has lots of bullet ricochets and like explosive barrels and lassos. Another level we've been thinking about is like a more jungle dinosaur level. So you're being chased by a big T-Rex. So basically just anything that we think is fun, we're going to throw into the game and try and make that a compelling experience that's included.
Whatever art style you end up embracing, if it's a little bit more three-dimensional or pixel-based, making sure the visual language for the player is consistent and somewhat obvious that this particular opponent's going to be ranged versus melee versus as an object you can pick up, just because there'll be so much going on and such like instantaneous decision-making that the player's going to be relying on. I think just making things super consistent and clear.
That's one of the hard things, it's like taking what we have now is like the perfect, purest representation of what's happening in the game. Finding that balance of having something that is a bit more representative, less just pure abstract and looks great is quite a tricky problem to solve. So yeah, that's what we're working on.
My question is this. I'd love to hear you talk about how do you get your player to continue engaging with this game? I thought it was wonderful. Once I was killed off, I wanted to jump back in and play again, but I could see getting to a point where I need more motivation to play.
Full disclosure, that demo that we've submitted was essentially 1 week's work. Full disclosure, that demo that we've submitted was essentially 1 week's work. But the plan for the large game is like much bigger. We have this idea of different biomes, so you'll be playing through different areas, and each biome has its own items and enemies and different mechanics and different gameplay. In addition to that, you'll have characters you can play with, and each of those will have other abilities.
We played it on PC. What about consoles? What about mobile? What are you thinking?
So this is something I've been thinking about a lot. We've got a constraint in there that the game has to be entirely playable either with mouse or with touch. It's kind of an arbitrary constraint we've added, but it's more about the complexity of the game. I think that will translate really well to a touchscreen, whether it's the Switch touchscreen or mobile touchscreen. Any console, every console we can would be excellent.
In the areas where you're lacking expertise, I would try to partner. A lot of people would want to work with this game, partner with people in those spaces to make sure like you nailed it on mobile or the art style is the right one, because it is so good already. You don't want to like sort of ruin it with a bad decision on one of those things.
That would be my advice too. Trust in your vision. If you look at some of the biggest games on the market, like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, the designers started by using the original Zelda kind of game world and look to test the game systems and figure out, is it fun? And that's what you've done. You've used a bunch of symbols and some very simple colors to test a game system, and after just playing for 30 seconds, I'm like, this works, I get it. Take your time on this one, because the core concept is so good. Just put it in the oven and bake it for a while and see what comes out.
My strong suggestion would be, as you continue to progress from a development perspective, I would have one great environment, one great experience, monetize that, and then you can do so much more down the road. DLC, added content, user-generated content, but it starts with that great, perfect first experience. So that's my strong suggestion, is focus on that, get that right. All of the rest can come with time.
All right, well, thanks for your time, Reese. Now please re-enter the Chronosphere, and we'll bring you and the other devs back in a bit for the big reveal.
You know, even when we submitted the game, I was a bit worried that it was a bit early. I know there's a good game there. I know that core is there and it's promising, but when I saw the other entries, I thought, probably not much of a chance for this one. But yeah, I think everyone really understood how the game worked. They seem to have played it a lot, which is, super gratifying and also a surprise, I thought, with so many entries. So yeah, couldn't have gone better.
So everyone seems to agree that they really hit on something with the gameplay here. Of course, the visuals are almost entirely placeholder. They work for Pear.
I'm hoping he doesn't go too far with the visuals that they smother that really good core. A game like Geometry Wars, it looks visually beautiful, but it's simple shapes and very like you look at it, it's impressive, but it's not over-designed to the point where, it's like complicated, over-the-top sprites.
They feel very placeholder to me, although I do like minimalism. This feels way, way minimal to the point where it almost feels like programmer, which I think is what it is.
I think that, in terms of the visuals, when you get a really great mechanic, you don't necessarily need like dinosaurs and things like that. So that made me a little hesitant as he was sort of talking to that. I think he's got this amazing game, and I would just want him to partner with somebody that could really guide him and test through that, because I don't know that you need to do all these different things with it there, but this game was awesome.
Might be in the minority here. I just could not get into that art style or the presentation of the game as it is. I loved the gameplay. I kept going back and playing it more and more, but this is not a game I could see being broadly appealing. I think it's niche, but if we're talking about trying to get millions and millions of people to play it, I think it needs something more approachable or something more recognizable visually to just attract people, whether it's just through marketing or the assets.
We all feel that there's something really core there, and Chris pointed it out. He wasn't attracted to the visuals, nor were really any of us.
No.
But there was something there.
Okay, well, judges, prepare your final decisions. When we come back, Rogue CEO Matt Casamassino will be revealing the winner of Rogue Jam in the huge potential category. Stay right there on the edge of your seat. Welcome back. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. Time to name the very first Rogue Jam competition winner for the game with the hugest potential. Now, since Matt is officially the big boss at Rogue, he will be speaking on behalf of the judges. Matt, did you reach a decision?
We have. It wasn't easy, but we've come to that final decision.
All right, let's bring our developers back and get down to business. Developers, are you ready?
Yeah.
Matt, the floor is yours.
Let's start with Rogue North. The judges really did like the pixel art style, and that juxtaposed with the violence just really won folks over, and we think it works really well. That being said, there are a lot of games like this out there, and there's no getting around it. Rogue North does feel similar to some of those games. Still, with a bit more time, it's very clear, even at this early stage, that you've got something special. And if you can continue developing that, this is going to be an extraordinary game.
Thank you.
Chris, let's talk about Hockey Heroes for a second. We love how nostalgic this game is. It really harkens back to NHL 94, the Gretzky games, and we were all over that. But there's a lot more to it. We love the fights, the drafting of players, and the overall vibe, and we especially like the shooting and skating warm-ups before each game. However, it's gotta be said, and you said this yourself, visuals are placeholder. They felt very standard fare to us. Despite all of that, there's huge potential here, and we hope that you continue to push the overtop elements even further.
Yeah, thanks for your feedback. I appreciate it.
Finally, Reese, let's talk about Enter the Chronosphere. This is an incredibly deep, surprisingly strategic and fun game. The mechanics are really responsive, there's a ton of variety in how it plays, and I gotta say it's no small feat in how you made a turn-based game feel super fast-paced. One shortcoming though are the placeholder visuals. They're super early at this point, and the punctuation-based visuals just don't hold up right now. So we're definitely going to be looking for more there as the game develops.
Yeah, thank you.
But after much deliberation, our judges are excited to announce enter the Chronosphere as the first ever Rogue Jam winner.
Hell yeah! Woo! Amazing.
Wow, Reese, this is huge. Congratulations. What's next for the Effort Star team and Enter the Chronosphere? What are you going to do with the prize money of $50,000?
Yeah, that's amazing. So that's exactly what we need to get an artist on board and work out exactly how this is going to look, make it amazing, get it really tight, get that visual perfect. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, you killed it, Reese. Everybody loves the game. We thought it was awesome. And so we couldn't be more excited to work with you to take this to the next level.
Thanks so much, guys. This is, yeah, really, really amazing. Such a positive response, like, caught me off guard. So, yeah, I'm very happy.
The other candidates were amazing as well, and it was very, very close. It came down to the wire here. So I just want to give hats off to everybody who participated. These are all amazing games. But we can only pick one winner, and that winner is you, Reese.
I'm pretty blown away, to be honest.
Well, thank you, Reese. Congratulations on your victory today. Thanks also to Chris and Mac. Your games are terrific and wonderfully Canadian. That wraps things up for us here in our Rogue Jam studios. A huge thank you to our judges, and of course a big thank you to everyone watching at home. But Rogue Jam is only just getting started. I'm Damon Hatfield, and on behalf of everyone here at Rogue Jam, we'll see you on next week's episode. Next week, we're putting appearances first. Rogue Jam is running down the most visually stunning, drop-dead gorgeous, and otherwise eye-poppingly beautiful games. And whoever wins will be taking home the jaw-droppingly big prize of $100,000.
This is maybe the most competitive genre in gaming, period.
Tune into IGN on Monday, April 25th to find out who's got the looks to kill the competition. Rogue Jam, it's anyone's game.